You may not have been aware, but there has been an armed rebel movement in Niger that has been planning on removing the current military leader of Niger and reinstating the ousted President Mohammed Bazoom. This group has caused a lot of atrocities and damage to the military administration of Niger, as well as the death of some soldiers. However, recently, 9 members of this armed group surrendered to the military government. According to the report from the authorities in Niger, these armed rebels repented and handed over their weapons to the military. This is fantastic news for the military government in Niger and has great implications for Niger and the Sahel region at large. In this video, we are going to analyze this group, their motives, and the implications of their surrender to Niger and the Sahel region. It all started in August 2023 when the former president of Niger was ousted from power by Niger's military under the leadership of General Tiani. Prior to the coup, Niger was generally regarded as one of the poorest countries in Africa, despite the fact that it runs a democratic government with a president that had the backing of France. Under President Bazoom's leadership, with France's influence, Niger was battling with severe insecurity coupled with poverty, underdevelopment, lack of basic infrastructure, and economic stagnancy. However, just like it happened in Mali and Burkina Faso, anti-French sentiments had begun to spread, and the citizens had begun to demand a change in government. Frankly speaking, it was inevitable that a coup would occur, which it finally did in August 2023. While the regional bloc ECOWAS, foreign governments such as France and the US, and international institutions like the European Union condemned the coup, the citizens of Niger were excited about the coup. The people threw their support behind the military government and regarded the military as a welcome development. However, contrary to what everyone thought, not every citizen of Niger was excited about the military government. Now, prior to the military coup in August 2023, there was a group known as the Patriotic Liberation Front, FPL, operating in Niger near the Libyan border. This group was founded in 2021 by a Nigerian Tubu armed group, and they fought against the former president of Niger, Mohammed Bazoom. However, just before the coup, this group for some reason decided to accept Bazoom and pledged their loyalty to him. So when the coup occurred which ousted Bazoom, they were not happy, and they decided that their next mission was to remove General Tiani. According to a statement released by the group on Facebook, the group noted that it has set its sights on putting an end to the perilous misadventure of traitor General Tiani. Before we proceed, here is a reminder to like this video, drop a comment, and subscribe to our channel if you have not done so already. This was the beginning of the adventures of the Patriotic Liberation Front in Niger. Their method of removing General Tiani from power was to attack the military, the same way the Islamist jihadists have been doing in Niger. But not only were they attacking the military, but they also attacked on different occasions Niger's economic resources. In February 2024, for instance, the FPL ambushed Nigerian soldiers escorting gold miners on the Arlit-Tabarakat Road in the Agadez region. While the Nigerian Ministry of Defense reported inflicting significant damage on the FPL on the other hand claimed to have killed 27 soldiers and wounded 9 others, including an expatriate with a Ukrainian passport. In June, the FPL claimed responsibility for a series of attacks targeting a Chinese oil project in the country. According to the FPL, this was a warning to the military government and General Tiani in particular to remove himself from power amongst other demands. The FPL's actions, however, threatened to escalate into a full-scale assault on the oil pipeline project that exports crude oil to neighboring Benin. The FPL's demands are many, but one of their primary focus is the release of former President Mohammed Bazoom, who has been under house arrest with his wife at the presidential palace in Niamey. The group has also called for the restoration of democracy in Niger, as well as the cancellation of a $400 million Chinese loan to the military government. Isn't it baffling that a group that initially fought against the former president all of a sudden decided to pledge their loyalty to him? There is no doubt that they only did that because they had something to gain. Perhaps the former president promised them a financial settlement, and this was the reason why they were calling for reinstating him. We say this because a group that truly cares about the progress of their nation would not go about destroying the economic resources of their country. You see, the oil project which the FPL attacked was a 2,000-kilometer-long pipeline extending to the port of Cotonou that was developed in partnership with the China National Petroleum Corporation, CNPC, and its subsidiary WAPCO. The project was intended to be a significant source of income for both Niger and China. But then the attacks cast a sort of shadow on the project as it led to a crisis between Niger, China, and Benin. After the attacks on the pipeline, General Tiani condemned the attack as a terrorist act perpetrated by malicious individuals. And he revealed that 6 Nigerian military officers were killed during another attack on the Agadem oil field on June 12th. He also added that the attacks instilled fear in Chinese companies operating in the country, leading to a suspension of their activities. Interestingly, before this incident, the FPL had claimed responsibility for attacking a military position in Segadine, a town in central Niger. During this assault, several soldiers were killed, and military equipment was either confiscated or destroyed. Now, after the attack on the pipeline, the FPL released a video on its Facebook page where the rebels were seen operating in the desert and destroying crucial segments of the pipeline. Interestingly, the FPL has distanced itself from any foreign support or French sponsorship, insisting that their sole aim is to restore democracy in Niger as patriotic fighters. They have vowed to continue attacking military positions and oil fields until their objectives are achieved. In other words, this is not a case of France influencing some group of people to carry out an objective against their own people. This is simply the case of Africans being Africa's problem. These people claim that they want democracy, but is democracy about destroying vital economic resources and perpetuating violence? The authorities in Niger have responded to the actions of the FPL with increased military operations. The escalating violence poses significant challenges not only for the junta, but also for international stakeholders invested in the country's stability. The pipeline project, a cornerstone of Niger's economic strategy, is now in jeopardy. China's investment in Niger's oil infrastructure was seen as a strategic partnership, bolstering economic ties between the two countries. The attacks by the FPL threatened to derail this cooperation, with potential repercussions for both economies. Chinese companies have already begun suspending their operations, citing security concerns. The FPL's activities have also drawn the attention of neighboring countries. In June, authorities in Libya issued an arrest warrant against Mahmoud Salah, the leader of the FPL. This prompted the FPL to release a statement asserting that they have no quarrel with neighboring governments. They emphasized that all their operations are conducted within Nigerian territory, challenging the military government to confront them directly. However, it seems that members of the FPL are no longer interested in continuing to pursue their mission of reinstating the former president. According to local media reports, FPL members began to surrender to the authorities in Niger at the beginning of November 2024. This was after discreet negotiations by influential local personalities. According to Niger's army and national television, FPL spokesman Idrissa Madaki and 3 other members turned themselves in separately in 2 towns near the Libyan border on November 1st. And then, some days later, 9 other members also surrendered to the military government. According to the governor of Agadez, an official from the governorate of the northern desert region near Libya, 9 FPL fighters repented and handed over their weapons and ammunition on Monday during a ceremony in the presence of General Ibra Bulama. Meanwhile, the leader of the FPL, Mahmoud Salah, was provisionally stripped of his nationality, as were 7 members of the Bazoum regime who were suspected of terrorist bomb attacks a few days before the surrender. This was after Salah's threats of attacking strategic sites in Niger. Prior to the FPL's surrender, the group's actions added to the growing list of security threats in Niger. As you know, Niger has long been plagued by the activities of various armed groups. These groups exploit the porous borders and socio-economic vulnerabilities in Niger, leading to widespread displacement and human rights abuses. Niger's strategic location in the Sahel region makes its stability crucial for regional security. However, despite international help from foreign governments and institutions, the insecurity still persists. This is why dealing with the actions of an internal rebel group such as the FPL was a strain on the military authorities in Niger. However, their recent surrender is a welcome development. This is because the military government can now focus on other important issues such as combating terrorism and ensuring the development of Niger's economy. Now, as we said earlier, The actions of the FPL exacerbated tensions between Niger and Benin. Prior to this time, the relations between Niger and Benin had been strained since the coup occurred in August 2023, but it further strained over the border dispute and the actions of the FPL. As you may recall, the international community, foreign countries, and the ECOWAS regional bloc were in turmoil after the coup that overthrew former Niger President Mohammed Bazoom and installed General Tiani as Niger's new president. They condemned the coup and called for Bazoom's reinstatement. The regional bloc ECOWAS, led by Nigerian President Bola Tinubu and supported by Western countries such as France and the United States, declared that it would intervene militarily if Niger's military junta refused to return power to Bazoum. While not all ECOWAS member states supported the move of the ECOWAS chairman, some countries, including Benin and Senegal, supported the bloc's decision. At the time, Benin's Minister of Foreign Affairs Olusegun Ajadi Bakari told reporters that the country was calling for the immediate release and reinstatement of President Bazoum. He also said that the Benin government has pledged its full support to any measures the regional bloc wants to implement. We fully support the ongoing diplomatic measures and they remain the preferred solution for now. But if ECOWAS were to take any action tomorrow for any reason, Benin would actually be fully involved as a member of ECOWAS, he added. Benin's President Patrice Talon also vocally called for Bazoum's reinstatement and even voiced support for ECOWAS forces' military intervention against the Nigerian coup leaders. In response to Benin's actions, Niger, which shares a border with Benin, terminated its military agreement with Benin and accused Benin of approving the stationing of soldiers on its territory in the wake of a possible ECOWAS military attack on Niger. Although the regional bloc ultimately did not intervene militarily, the damage was already done. It should also be recalled that ECOWAS imposed severe sanctions on Niger, which resulted in Niger closing its borders. However, following the decision of Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali to withdraw from the bloc, in February 2024, the regional bloc lifted the severe sanctions against Niger, including the border closure. Despite the lifting of sanctions, Niger refused to fully reopen its border with Benin. This meant that trade between the two countries virtually stopped, resulting in economic losses, especially on the Benin side. Before the coup, almost all of Niger's imports, including food, cars, and consumer goods, were transported through the port of Cotonou in Benin. There were alternative routes, such as through the port of Lomé in Togo, and then through Burkina Faso, but these routes were complicated and insecure due to the Islamist insurgency. Therefore, the port of Cotonou in Benin was the best option. However, with the closure of the Niger-Benin border, Niger shifted its imports through Burkina Faso and expanded cooperation with the country. This is not surprising, since Burkina Faso was one of the countries that supported Niger in the face of threats from the regional bloc, and this support grew and developed into a political and economic alliance. Since then, the Benin government has been calling for the border to be opened so that the halted trade can resume, but Niger has refused. According to Niger's Prime Minister Ali Mahamani Lamine Zain, Niger cannot fully reopen its border with Benin for security reasons. There are bases on Benin's territory that train terrorists who destabilize our country. Therefore, for simple security reasons, we have decided to keep the border closed, he said. In this tense situation, the Niger government issued a decree on May 11th, restricting the passage of vehicles from Benin on the corridor between the port of Lomé, it added. According to the decree, the transport of goods on this corridor is limited to vehicles registered in Togo or Niger, in accordance with the bilateral transport agreement between Niger and Togo. The document also stipulates that in case of high demand, only trucks registered in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Ghana, excluding trucks from Benin, may participate in the transport of goods, even though the corridor connects the countries. In response to Niger's refusal to open its borders and the recent ban on trucks in Benin, the Benin government responded by blocking China's first shipment of crude oil from Niger. Recall that Niger, with the help of Chinese investment, is building a 2,000-kilometer pipeline through Benin, becoming Africa's newest oil producer. Construction of the pipeline has been completed, and shipments are scheduled to begin in May according to the schedule. However, Crude oil from Niger bound for China was blocked from entering the port by Benin authorities. According to the Beninese president, Niger does not consider itself an enemy and continues to expect its oil to pass through Benin's territory. If you want to load oil in our waters, you cannot consider Benin an enemy and at the same time expect your oil to pass through our territory. We are open to cooperation with Niger. They are the ones who refuse to let the trucks through, he said. The oil bound for China was part of a $400 million commodity loan from China National Petroleum Corp, which Niger's military junta agreed to with a 7% interest rate and repayment in oil over 12 months. Essentially, Benin authorities have been using Niger's oil exports as a negotiating tool to pressure the Niger government to reopen the border. Benin's oil blockade of Niger jeopardizes Niger's plans to buy oil as part of a $400 million deal with state-run oil company China National Petroleum Corporation, including crude oil exports. This is significant because Niger announced it would use export agreement funds to pay off bonds overdue due to regional sanctions. Niger's Prime Minister Zain responded to Benin's decision at a press conference saying, "Benin's blockade of Niger's oil exports, imposed in response to the border closure, violates trade agreements between the two countries and with Niger's Chinese partner. The blockade violates about a dozen agreements signed by Benin, Niger, and the Chinese sides regarding the recently constructed PetroChina-backed pipeline that will link Nigeria's Agadem oil fields to the port of Cotonou in Benin." Zain added that one of the oil export agreements stipulates that Benin cannot unilaterally change or restrict the agreement without the consent of the other party. This means that the country has agreed not to take any decision that would impede the flow of Nigerian crude oil to international markets. "This is serious. This is a violation of the agreement," he said. Beninese political analyst David Morgan confirmed this. According to David, Benin may invoke the principle of national sovereignty and reciprocity, which means that Nigeria will face similar countermeasures since it has also closed its borders with its neighbors. However, he said Benin's decision to block Niger's crude oil exports may violate international law. Under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, an international agreement that provides the legal framework for all maritime and ocean activities, landlocked countries like Niger are legally guaranteed access to the sea. But in a surprising development, the Benin government announced on Wednesday, May 15th, that it would allow Nigerian oil to be exported through the port of Seme in an effort to resolve the tense standoff between the two countries. According to Benin's Minister of Mines, Benin has temporarily withdrawn its decision to block Niger's crude oil exports through its ports and agreed to talks between the two countries. So why did Benin reverse its decision? Now, the Minister of Mines announced that Benin authorities have decided to lift the ban on oil exports to Niger after a meeting with Chinese partners. "We have decided to approve the loading of the first vessels in our waters. However, it is important to note that this approval is provisional," he said. The Minister of Mines added that Benin intends to comply with all agreements under the pipeline project and that he would like to hold a meeting to consider urgent issues related to the proper implementation of the pipeline's export operations. The border dispute between Niger and Benin appears to be over for the time being. There is still hope that the two countries can reach a workable agreement that benefits both sides. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this video.